All right.
All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, as always, Coach Steve. Unfortunately, I don't have Coach Tibbs with me today. He's got some things doing. He's planning a wedding right now, so he's off and about today. So we don't have Coach Tibbs, but have no fear. We do have two incredible guests on today. As you guys all know, Kyle, he's been on the show many times. Kyle, how's everything going?
Oh, absolutely great, Steve. Thanks for having me on. And I guess if Jibbs is planning a wedding, that means congratulations. Right, that's a good step.
Of course, absolutely, yeah, definitely. He's planning it. He's had to go meet with the DJ tonight. I told him, like, the DJ doesn't rock, you might look elsewhere, man. So keep your eye on that. So, but he'll be back again. But Kyle, appreciate you jumping on for sure. And a first-time guest on our show, Hutch. What's going on, buddy? Welcome to the show for the first time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited to be here, talk some fantasy football today.
Absolutely. So we already kind of know what Kyle does. Kyle does a million things in this industry, which we all love, which I'll let him talk about that at some point. But Hutch, let everyone know kind of what you kind of do in the fantasy world.
So, really, the first thing we really do is my podcast, the Young Fantasy Mind Football Podcast. Pretty much anywhere podcasts can be found. And you can go follow me on Twitter at TYFMNFL. And you can pretty much find all my other content from there. I have a job writing articles for DLF. I just started a new TikTok account where I post like fantasy football videos, and the Twitter account and the podcast. That's really it, though.
Awesome. So if you guys aren't already following him, please do so and check out his work. I've seen it. It's some pretty good stuff out there, that's for sure.
Appreciate it.
And Kyle, I will let you go now and talk about everything that you do real quick in the industry.
Well, Hutch is doing quite a bit too, so let's not sleep on his impressive resume. But yes, from the hat, you can see I'm with Going for Two. Do some live streams with them, some articles as well every week. Also with Full Press Coverage, I've got the Full Press Fantasy Pod, Full Press Packers Pod, because I am a Packers fan. And then again, some articles on fullpresscoverage.com as well. So yeah, goingfor2.com, fullpresscoverage.com for my writing, and everything on Twitter at Senra Says. Follow me there.
Awesome. So if you could follow both our guests tonight, guys, much appreciated, of course. So, all right, let's get into the tonight's topic. So, guys, obviously it's our Monday night show, so we're talking waiver wires. And then at the end of our episode, we're going to get into some dynasty talk since we're getting close to that season once again. So before we get into the waiver wire portion of the show, I'm just going to run through some news that's kind of been going on since last week. Tyrod Taylor, we all know, kind of have a wrist injury. He's kind of week to week right now, and there's rumors that Davis Mills is already planning on starting next week. I believe Houston plays Seattle next week. Kenyon Drake, broken ankle, out for the season. Sucks to see that. Adam Thielen had left with an ankle injury. He did not play most of the game on Sunday. I know he didn't practice today, but he does play Thursday, so that could be a concern. Mike Lennon suffered a concussion, and Daniel Jones is likely not playing this week, so New York Giants might get Jake Form starting for the New York Giants this week. Ryan Griffin and Corey Davis suffered injuries, and Corey Davis, as of a couple hours ago, is getting surgery, and he's now out for the rest of the season. Miles Sanders left again with an ankle injury, something to keep our mind on. We might mention some of those running backs in that case during the waiver wire portion. Elijah Mitchell, head injury on Sunday. Logan Thomas may have torn his ACL. At first they said that, but now it may not be. Still don't have a clear word on that yet. Deontay Harris from the New Orleans Saints, wide receiver, is suspended 3 games. Keenan Allen, this is big, especially for those Week 14 matchups right now. He is on the COVID reserve as of today. I don't know if he's vaccinated or not personally, so we'll have to see if that is going to cause him to possibly miss a week. Usually a lot of players do miss.
I didn't see that at all. That's shocking. Oh my God.
A couple of those news points I didn't know either. So thanks, Steve, for the update for us too.
Yeah, that kills a lot of my line. That kills a decent amount of my lineups this week if he's out.
Yeah. So most of them have been out, so it's definitely a big concern. So we might mention a replacement for him as well. And then Adrian Peterson, Kyle, this might be good for you. He got reverted back to the practice squad for Seattle. So he's not on the active roster currently. So we'll see how that goes if he gets kind of pushed back up again, maybe for next Sunday. So that's most of the news. There's some cool things out there, some kind of sucky things, of course. So we'll kind of get through that. So this is the last week of bye weeks. Thank God, finally, we're here. The Eagles, the Patriots, the Dolphins, and the Colts all on bye weeks this week. So some decent players are out there, especially Jonathan Taylor, which really sucks not to have him in Week 14. But
yeah,
NFL likes to screw us.
Yeah, JT is especially if you're like I mean, with Jonathan Taylor, if you're barely on the edge of the playoffs, that's a bit sad. Jonathan Taylor's been absolutely crushing it. But if you're on the edge of the playoffs and you got Jonathan Taylor on your team, that sucks. Yeah, that's gonna be
rough.
rough.
To fix that next year. They need to understand that fantasy players like need these like bye weeks early on in the season, or make them like a 6 or 8 bye week season. Like, come on.
Yeah, it'd be much better.
Definitely. All right, boys. So let's get into the main topic of the day. It's the waiver wire, guys. So if you're looking still for some waiver wire pickups for this week, again, there's bye weeks going on, there's injuries. You're just trying to find something. Maybe you're in the playoffs. Maybe you're trying to scrap for a playoff potential spot. We're going to give you guys some players. Most of our players are just about under 40% for the most part. We try to keep it that way just so there's some availability for you guys or so. So we'll start right here at the top. Kyle, I'll let you go first since you are our first guest of the evening here. Who's your big quarterback pickup for Week 14?
Yeah, just hitting under that 40% mark. So I was looking on Yahoo. I don't know wherever, I know ESPN's really common as well, but looking at Yahoo, Taylor Heineke at 39%. So it meets this under 40% threshold. But even that's a little surprising. It seems like it should be a little higher. I feel like for the rest of the season, I think he's kind of a pretty safe top 15 quarterback. And I do wonder, people still aren't accepting the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't returning this year, if that's been the hesitation for him to be picked up. But from a streaming standpoint of view, I think he should do pretty well. Obviously, the Logan Thomas injury hurts. Looked like he was going to be, one of the top 2 targets on the team. But, maybe the healthy return of another player that I'll touch on in a bit. So it's kind of a combo here. But yeah, if Taylor Heineke isn't available, I do have a backup, but I'll let the other guys go first.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a great player to kind of grab right now. Someone who he's got the Eagles and the Cowboys over the next 4 weeks. I mean, those are potential big play matchups. I mean, we just saw Zack Wilson just throw up a nice game against the Eagles. So I mean, the Eagles defense is vulnerable. The Cowboys defense can be scored on, and this Washington offense is kind of in a solid groove right now. So definitely a great pick there, Kyle. Hutch, what do you got for us, my friend? Who's your top QB pickup?
Yeah, my top QB pickup, this is a player who did injure himself in his game. He actually had a horrible performance, but he still put up great fantasy numbers because he rushed for 100 yards. It's Taysom Hill from the New Orleans Saints. I mean, I feel like he just rushes. He just rushes. That's it. He just has a baseline of 40, 50 rushing yards, and that's going to get you fantasy points. He threw 4 interceptions last night. He went 19 for 41. I mean, not last night, on Thursday night. He went 19 for 41, threw 4 interceptions, and he still put up 25 fantasy points. That's just how it works with the quarterback position. Sometimes if the quarterback will run, and Taysom Hill with his finger injury, he's not expected to miss any time at all. And he's only owned right now, what I'm seeing on Sleeper is he's owned in 40. So right on the mark, 40% of a Sleeper league. So he's pretty available. You should go look to pick him up as a waiver wire quarterback.
No, I love that pick there. I actually had him as my fill-in spot because I usually let you guys kind of pick the players and I'll kind of just go off that. But he was my next pick there. And yeah, I mean, we talk about rushing ability quarterbacks. He rushes constantly. And since his arm is not that great, he's going to get you fantasy points on a week-to-week basis. So definitely a great pick there, Hutch. For me, guys, there's not a lot of great quarterbacks actually on the market, honestly, right now. I would probably take a shot on Zack Wilson if you're looking for something. You could also go Cam, but, I don't know how much I trust Cam. If he gets back to running the ball, that'd be great. But Zack Wilson is very available in fantasy, and people might be turned off because what they've seen for about the first 11 games of the season when he actually's played, it's not been great. But in Week 13, I mean, he looked great, honestly. He threw the ball decently well. It sucks he lost Corey Davis, but Corey Davis wasn't a really big part of his game plan this past Sunday anyway. And they play the Saints, who they've been just allowing fantasy points, to quarterbacks this season here. And if you're looking for a potential guy that you can actually go out and grab, who probably will be available in your league, I'd take the shot on him. I like the kid coming out, going into the season here. I thought he was going to have a decent year. It didn't happen that way, but he's starting to click a little bit. Finally, a sign of positivity in his game. So if you're looking for a QB play, I think you could go out there and pick up Zack Wilson pretty easily.
If I could have one more, it's kind of a combination. Like Wilson as a rookie, but he also mentioned Cam, right? The rushing, same with Taysom Hill. Justin Fields, right? I mean, Andy Dalton looked pretty bad. You kind of get the sense that if Fields is healthy, they'll go back to him. I would expect.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that Dalton's played well enough to keep the rookie back on the bench. So same kind of thing as Taysom Hill, right? With his rushing potential, even if he has a poor game passing, he can still make up for it. So I think Fields kind of that same vein as all these other guys.
Yeah, I want to go back to I like Justin Fields too, but I want to go back to the Zack Wilson pick. I really love this one. Like, since he's gotten back from his injury, he's actually looked decently well. Like, I've watched a lot of him, like, in the second half. Like, he looks really good. And Corey Davis being out does suck, but Elijah Moore is lighting it up. And he, before this one game, Elijah Moore had never played well with Zack Wilson on the field, at least for fantasy points wise. He only had one. I don't think he had a double-digit point game in a PPR scoring format when Zack Wilson was on the field. And this game, he just went off for 86 yards and a touchdown. And he almost had another one. It was in his hands. And he dropped it in the back of the end zone. That could have been 2. But Elijah Moore had a great game with Zack Wilson, 12 targets. You can see the connection. But Zack Wilson looked great. And I think he's a fantastic pickup. I love that pick.
Thanks, Hutch. Appreciate that. I hate to talk about the Jets players as a Dolphins fan, but I'm a big Zack Wilson, big Elijah Moore guy. So I don't know. I'm doing something wrong here. So, but I like Fields, but I'm concerned about his schedule the rest of the season still. It's my concern with Fields, but his rushing potential.
Although Giants Week 17 championship game, that might be one that's pretty decent. And the Week 16 matchup, I think, is Seattle. So those two, if you can get that far, are good. But then, the road to those weeks, I did look. That schedule isn't great. That is a good point, Steve.
Would you trust him though? Would you start him in a big, Week 16 matchup? Would you trust him in your starting lineup?
I feel like that's more like it's like a high upside thing, right? Like, you're probably like, if he's your starter the whole season, you're probably not getting that far, right? But like, you pick him up as your backup in case your starter has a really bad matchup. So I don't know what the bad matchups are like in 16, 17, but if like someone's kind of on the fringe and you're not sure about the matchup, he'd be that like high upside chance. Because, better than any streamer available probably at that point. That'd be kind of the idea there, or, we don't want to talk about it, but if someone gets hurt or someone goes on the COVID list, right, those risks can happen. I think he's kind of got the high upside that you'd want for that 1 week, 2 week streamer type.
I like that. I like it.
And sorry, can I say
no, go ahead.
Yeah. Last thing here before we move on. The last 2 games before the bye, right? San Francisco and Pittsburgh. He was on fire, 26 fantasy points, 21 fantasy points. And the next game, only played 50% of snaps and got injured, didn't do much for fantasy. But in the games prior, he really started to light it up. And if he were to continue that down the stretch, like I would trust him in my lineup against maybe Minnesota, against Seattle, against the Giants. I would trust him in my lineups in those 3 games.
All right, I like it. All right, guys. So upside play to grab now for sure before he maybe does go off. So definitely like that then. All right, guys. So let's head over to actually, is there any other quarterbacks? Oh, let me just see. Just real quick. I mean, if you're desperate, Big Ben against Minnesota secondary isn't that good. Teddy Bridgewater against Detroit.
You can start him.
You could look, yeah. Definitely don't watch the game. But like him and him and Teddy Bridgewater are other options if you're looking for a quarterback, I guess. So those other guys. So I always like to mention other people just in case people are looking for something. So, all right. So now we can head over to the RBs now. Kyle, who's your number 1 RB pickup this week?
Well, and maybe the news you gave at the end kind of tampered this. This is one of those revelations to me. I didn't know that they deactivated Adrian Peterson to the practice squad, the Seahawks did. But, I mean, came in really, I know he was on the practice squad last week. I'm not even sure if he got a practice session in with them, though. Maybe 1 day of practice, he got 11 carries. So the thinking is, outside of Chris Carson, everyone in that backfield really has been disappointing. I know Travis Homer had the touchdown, but I believe that was on special teams. So from a running back perspective, no one's really had success there. So I think it could be, if Peterson does well enough, it could be his job the rest of the season. And I just think, okay, 1 game to get tuned up He did, he scored the touchdown, but really did nothing else outside of that. But he might still be that goal line guy that they have. Is Russ good enough to get the offense into that position? We'll see. But it's frankly not a great waiver wire for the running backs at this point late in the season. So that's the best I could find was Adrian Peterson. I don't know how much a 33-year-old or a 30 actually isn't he 36?
He's 36.
But,
yeah,
there you go. That's
old man.
But that's where we're at in the season.
Hey, it's worth the gamble. Let's see what happens. Maybe he gets reverted back up to the active roster by Sunday. We'll see how it works. So, Hutch, what about you, my friend? What do you got as your RB pickup?
So my RB pickup for this week, I mean, there aren't a lot of great running backs, but I feel like this one, it's not the sexiest pick, but I feel like they're going to get you points. They proved it this week. I think it's Tevin Coleman, owned in 39% of sleeper leagues right now. Tevin Coleman had 15 opportunities last week with Carter sidelined and 4 targets. Like, that is not something you find with a lot of waiver wire running backs is involved in the passing game. And Coleman is seeing that right now. And he got 10 PPR fantasy points. He did not score a touchdown in that game. Like, you cannot say that a waiver wire running back will get you 10 points and not score a touchdown. Like, you can't say that about many waiver wire running backs, especially at this point in the season. So if Coleman's doing that and he gives you that type of floor, like if he scored a touchdown in this game, we're talking about like a 16, 17 point game for Tevin Coleman here, and he would be like a RB2 on the week. So this is a player you should definitely be looking to pick up, especially since Carter's on IR right now and he could miss the rest of the season.
I don't think Adrian Peterson got 10 points with a touchdown, so that's a good point.
Yeah, I think he had 11 carries for 16 yards and a touchdown and a fumble. I think that's exactly what he had. But I'll
got him. I think he got up to like 8, close to 9, but not 10. So yeah, there you go. Tevin Coleman's the answer. Good call, Hutch.
Yeah, let's see. And full point PPR 10.7. So.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, that's in full PPR. So if you play like a half or a standard, you're probably not going to get 10 points. But yeah, Peterson had 6.60 because he had 11 attempts, 16 yards, averaged 1.46 yards per carry and 1 touchdown, no receiving work.
That's rough. That's rough. Well, he is 36, so give the guy a break. So, all right. Yeah. But 2 great pickups so far for sure. Let's see here. I mean, I'm going to go with the Titans backfield. They're still under the 40% mark. What I do is I combine Yahoo, ESPN, and Sleeper and the percentage, and I come up with one percentage, and that's kind of how I do my 40% mark here. And
got it.
The average is under 40%. It's 38%. So if these guys are sitting out here, maybe they didn't get picked up because of their bye week, because they went off going into a bye week. So people might have overlooked these guys here and went for players who were actually playing this week. Those would be guys I'm looking at further on the waiver wire. I'm probably looking at Foreman still over Hillard. Both are great pickups, I think, if you're looking for someone. Just that I think Foreman will handle more of the early down work. They do have great matchups down the stretch here. I mean, the Titans play the Jags, the Steelers. The Dolphins aren't that great in terms of run defense. The 49ers are okay, but Jacksonville and Pittsburgh are great matchups, especially right for that playoff push. Maybe they really try to get focused back on the run. And we know Julio just possibly could be coming back this week. I know he just got designated to return from the IR, but they still don't have their wide receiver core right now, so they may be in need to run the ball more to keep the pressure off Tannehill. So for me, those would probably be my top tier pickups in my eyes.
Yeah,
I would prefer Hilliard
a lot. I would prefer Hilliard as well.
And I just because everything you've said so far, Hutch has been pass catching backs. I assume you were going to say the same thing for the pass catching.
Yeah, Hilliard is the one I prefer. And can I throw in one more as like a quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
There is one that I thought about when you were talking about the Miles Sanders injury and the Boston Scott stuff and the Jordan Howard stuff. There's one that came in my mind. I talked about him on my podcast that's dropping tomorrow. But Kenneth Gainwell is someone you should actually look at. The touches were a lot of garbage time, and Sanders was out, but he showed some fantastic stuff in that stretch. Like he had like a 15-yard touchdown run, 5 catches, averaged over 4.5 per carry, I believe. I might have to fact check that. But Kenneth Gainwell showed some stuff in that game, and they've used him earlier in the season. They really used him in a good role. And if Scott and Howard were to remain out, I doubt Scott's going to remain out, but if Howard will remain out and Kenneth Gainwell will get more touches next week again, that's something you should definitely keep an eye out for. I don't think this is someone you should really pay up for because he could come out next week and get like 1 touch and just really fail. Like that's really what this could be. It could just be garbage time touches and that's it. We've seen that from Gainwell before, but Gainwell is someone you should at least keep an eye on for next week to see if he keeps getting touches.
Yeah, I agree. You could
funny,
honestly. Kyle.
Sorry, I was gonna say I led things off with Peterson, but I think every name said since is probably better. So yeah, don't pick up Peterson, pick up those other guys.
I mean, hey, you never know. Peterson could end up doing something if he gets back on the roster. So, but yeah, Gainwell is definitely an interesting option for sure as well. I was going to mention him in a second, but you probably could get him after your waivers. You might not even put a claim in for him because he's on a bye, so people might overlook that kind of situation here. So definitely worth a stash heading into your matchups this week to see if maybe, we find out more injury news heading into the next week. So definitely a good.
I completely forgot about the bye. That's a good point. I completely forgot about the bye. But it gets to you, honestly. I was going to mention Boston Scott, and I was like, oh, they're on a bye. I can't even mention Boston Scott. He's also a good pickup too if you're looking for someone for next week to stash. A couple other guys I just want to throw out here. Rashad Penny, he did see majority of the touches, I believe, in this past week here. He didn't get hurt, so that is good news. But who knows who's going to handle that backfield? Rex Burkhead could get another shot at the starting job. Again, he was very ineffective, but maybe he will. Jeff Wilson. If Elijah Mitchell's head injury is something to take into consideration, any concern? I don't know. I didn't hear anything more about his head injury, if that was something that's going to linger or not. But just to keep that eye on that if you want to pick up a possible 49ers running back now. Let's see here. And Rashad Penny, he did have 11 touches just like Peterson, but he was way more efficient with them. He averaged 3.5 yards per carry, which isn't amazing, but it's better than Peterson's 1.4. It's better than Peterson's 1.4.
When you say someone's at 3.5 is way more, that's bad for the other guy.
Yeah,
Peterson was at 1.46. I mean, I don't know what else you're supposed to do.
I want to take back that Adrian Peterson take, I think, now.
Yeah. And then he had a one catch for 27 yards. He had a big catch there, but yeah, Penny definitely split the work with Peterson, but he's someone you can look at. Yeah,
exactly. And I feel like they want to get him the ball. So I mean, they still like he's a first round pick. They got to get this kid the ball. So let's see here. Carlos Hyde, James Robinson is still banged up, so maybe he gets a shot to start at some point. Matt Breida, if he plays well tonight, he might be worth a pickup at that point then. And Peyton Barber might be a name you want to hold out on here. Josh Jacobs did get a little banged up in this last game here. We already lost Kenyon Drake for the year. Jalen Richard is on the COVID list. So maybe Peyton Barber gets another shot.
I was going to say Richard would be the Kenyon Drake replacement, but you're right. Barber would be the Josh Jacobs replacement if he ever went down.
Jalen Richard might come off. I know he was on COVID last week, so he might be off before the week's over. So he might be an interesting name in deep league PPRs if you're looking for that. But it seems like Josh Jacobs is just the full down back now at this point. So
catching a lot of passes. Good to see.
About time. So. All right. So let's head over to the wide receivers now, boys. That's not the right week. There we go. Wide receiver pickups here. Who is your number one wide receiver pickup?
And I mean, pretty low rostership on Yahoo, only at 6% from what I saw. And I guess maybe, it was an early game, but it was prime time of the early games, the big catch to win the game for the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown. But 12 targets in that game. It does seem, who is the beneficiary without DeAndre Swift? Well, it's the slot receiver taking up those short depth of targets over the middle. That's where Swift was making a lot of his noise the passing game. So kind of makes sense that their slot receiver in St. Brown would fill in for those targets. So as long as Swift's out, I think St. Brown's definitely playable every week. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, he'd be my wide receiver pickup of the week, and frankly probably my number one pickup overall. If he's out there, he's probably more of a plug and play into your lineup than all the running backs you mentioned. If you need the running back, you go for the running back as an RB2, but you're looking for a flex spot. I think it's Amon-Ra over really any of the great running backs we talked about today. And I say great, meaning Tevin Coleman is the best. So
both me and Hutch really wanted to pick that guy because I mentioned him. I wanted that. I was like, in my head before, and I was like, shit, I wanted him too. So Hutch, who did you come up with a backup plan here?
Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, fantastic pickup. He's the number one overall pickup on the week for me. Not even close. I think he's in his own tier for pickups this week. But my player, ironically, he's also a receiver for the Detroit Lions. He did not have the game-winning touchdown catch this week, but I like Josh Reynolds a lot as a waiver wire pickup for this week. He's my second favorite waiver wire pickups in terms of wide receiver. We don't know what Kendrick Bourne does yet tonight. That, if Kendrick Bourne would have another big game, it could change. But I love Josh Reynolds right now. Josh Reynolds, in his last 2 games, 16.0, 10.9, 12 targets in 2 games. That's solid. That's not anything special. But he's a big play guy. We've seen it in LA. We've seen it in when he was on Tennessee for like a game or 2. Wasn't he on Tennessee for a minute? Right? He was on Tennessee.
It was.
Last season, yeah.
They picked him up.
Sorry, last season, not this season. Last season. And he got moved to Detroit, and he's made some big plays, and Goff and him clearly have a connection. So I think I like Josh Reynolds as a pickup.
No, I like that. I had him as my sleeper this past week. I picked the wrong line, but he still had a pretty decent outing. So I like the line picks there, guys. All right. I guess this one's a little tough for me right now. I would want to say Russell
You're right.
Gage.
Josh Reynolds. Sorry, you're right. Hutch. Reynolds played for the Titans this season. Yeah,
he did, right?
3 games.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he not play? So last year he was with the Rams.
Yeah.
And that's what it was.
So he got cut. Did he get cut or traded?
He ended his contract. I think his contract was up, and then he signed a decent contract with the Titans, and then they cut him.
What about from? Oh, they cut him. Okay, got it.
They cut him. Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, he asked for his release, and they granted it to him. So.
All right.
So I was going to go Russell Gage, but his matchups are so tough, and he's had just like one good performance in the last 4 weeks. So I'm going to take a shot on KJ Osborne right now. Minnesota Vikings. I don't know what Adam Thielen's injury is going to happen. It is a short week. He's a little older. He's 30. So maybe he doesn't play this week. Again, there's no reason to rush when they're kind of like falling apart anyway, this Minnesota team, since they lost to the Lions. KJ Osborne could end up seeing a bigger workload in this matchup. The Titans. The Steelers their defense is just okay overall, and I think they can be beat in the air here. And we haven't seen Osborne do much over the last maybe month and a half or 2 months now after he was early start, but maybe he gets back on track. He did have four catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown this past week, so he could be an option for a plug-and-play flex option if you're looking for something in that nature. So,
yeah, I like KJ Osborne a lot.
Yeah, same here, Hutch. But with Thielen, was the report high ankle sprain as well, or did they specify
high ankle sprain?
Was it high ankle sprain?
I would assume. I assume Thielen's out for the year. Like with a high ankle sprain this far late in the season, usually guys are out over a month with that. So picking like Osborne, it's not just a 1 week thing. I mean, he might be the wide receiver 2 there the rest of the season, all the way through the fantasy playoffs. So that's a great call, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I didn't realize the high ankle sprain, or I would have mentioned that. All right.
I thought I saw that report at high ankle sprain. So yeah, I think it's I'm surprised he hasn't been ruled out for Thursday yet. Like I've like any of rankings I've taken him out completely. Like I'm expecting him not to play at all. Like that's kind of. I'd have to be told otherwise.
And this was from the breaking news segment earlier, but I just got an update on Keenan Allen from Taylor Bisciotti. I don't know how to say that name. Bisciotti. Sorry. But anyway, I got a report. I've seen a couple reports saying I'm told Keenan Allen's vaccinated, so he could still play Sunday.
Okay, that's good news. Hopefully he plays.
So I think it's 2 tests that are negative within a 24-hour span.
Right, I think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. So we could find out Thursday, Friday if he's playing, kind of thing.
Yeah, so he still has a chance to play.
So good. Hopefully he can play. So great. All right. So a couple others. I mentioned Russell Gage. He is an option. Laquell Treadwell from the Jags. For some reason, Marvin Jones nor Laviska Shenault want to step up to be their wide receiver 1. So Treadwell, who really has done nothing over his career, decides to step up for the Jags and lead them in targets, lead them in yards this past week. So, or he didn't lead them in targets, but he led them in yards this past week. He played more snaps, I think, than both Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault. So he's like their number 1 wide receiver. They play the Titans this week. Big upside play if you're looking for something like that. Let's see here. Trayquan Smith, Marquez Callaway with Deontay Harris out now. They could see more targets. Hutch mentioned Kendrick.
I was going to say Deontay Harris actually before the news because he's like I looked at Yahoo. He's only at like 17% of leagues, but yeah, definitely the other 2 Saints guys are good pickups.
Definitely. Yeah. Let's see. Jameson Crowder, MBS. Those guys.
Jameson Crowder with Corey Davis missing time, that could definitely be something.
Definitely. Even Keenan Cole maybe takes over that role. I don't know, but
maybe Nick Westbrook-Akine. 2 last week. He's had double digits and 14 targets in 2 weeks. Coming off the bye.
With Julio back, he'll probably still
Julio
start.
back, that'll be tougher. Yeah.
Yeah,
but he'll probably still be starting for them, right? So
yeah, at least 1 week, at least a 1 week play for him for sure. No, definitely like that. All right, cool. So again, the wide receivers aren't that great either, but there's some small dimes in there. So all right, let's get over to the tight ends now. Kyle, who's your number one tight end pickup this week?
And he was bordering on maybe number one pickup overall as well. Again, tying to the news. A lot of these pickups are tied to the news, but with the Logan Thomas news, and again, that one's conflicted. So it sounds like his ACL isn't torn, but if I remember correctly, the initial reports yesterday were torn ACL, torn MCL. So they're saying the ACL is not torn, but they haven't said anything about the MCL, which leads me to think that's probably torn. So I'm assuming Thomas is done for the season, regardless of that good news today. If anything, this just means maybe for next year he'll be good to go right from the start of the season as opposed to coming back mid-season. So that's where the good news is for Thomas. But I'd assume he's done. So I think if Ricky Seals-Jones comes back healthy, and it seemed like he was a true questionable. Like he could have possibly come back last week, but with Thomas back in the fold, it seems like they didn't want to risk it. Sounds like whoever, if Thomas is there, Seals-Jones barely plays anyway, so why bother? But now with Thomas out, if Seals-Jones is healthy, I think he comes right back in and starts playing 80-90% of the snaps, might be the number 2 target on the team. So if you're in need of a tight end, and possibly not just a streamer, but a guy you can at least rely on every week, I think Ricky Seals-Jones is the pickup.
Even John Bates, if Seals-Jones is out, John Bates had a pretty decent outing once Logan Thomas went down. So, you get these guys now and stash them and see if one of them, whoever plays or doesn't play, the tight end for the Washington football team is productive. So, definitely love that pick there. Hutch, who do you got?
Yeah, my tight end pickup for this week's, it's related to the Adam Thielen news. And I love the KJ Osborne pick, but I love Tyler Conklin right now. Tyler Conklin, Adam Thielen only played 8% of the snaps for the game he got hurt. So he got ruled out pretty quickly, right? Tyler Conklin saw 9 targets in that game, got 7 catches. And we've seen Tyler Conklin be fantasy relevant with Thielen on the field, with KJ Osborne on the field, and with Jefferson on the field. We've seen Conklin be relevant at times. And I just think he could really keep it up here. And Thielen was a big target in the red zone. The Vikings loved looking to him in the red zone. And Conklin could kind of take over that role, and we could see a lot of touchdowns for him in the coming weeks with Thielen out.
Yeah, no, definitely. Conklin, I love Conklin. I'm surprised he's not over 40%, but people just don't seem to like him.
I didn't mention the roster percentage. He's only 31% right now, so close to 40, but he's available in over 2/3 of the leagues, so go get him.
I'll take it for sure. Let's see. I like a lot of tight ends. There seems to always be a tight end I like out here. I'm going to shoot Cole Kmet this week here. He really showed me something in this past matchup here. It was a tough game because it was very, very windy in Chicago here, but it was a tough matchup, and he was able to perform to some kind of standard. He had 3 catches, 40-some yards. Again, not great, but showed me something that he could be maybe a consistent high-end tight end too. And one thing I know about him this season, and maybe I'm wrong, but my stats are pretty good here. He hasn't scored yet this season, so I can't stand that he wouldn't go the whole season without at least scoring one time. Again, it's possible, but he's got some decent matchups the last few weeks here. I mean, Minnesota, Seattle, the Giants, he might end up getting I'm on the wrong team? No, it's the right team, right? Yeah. He might end up seeing a touchdown at some point this season, especially if Fields comes back in. They, give more opportunity to actually get close to the red zone here. He's a big red zone target, even outside of Jimmy Graham. So for me, I would take him as a long-term rest of the season kind of option if you just lost Logan Thomas and you're looking for a long season replacement kind of guy.
Yeah, I love Cole Kmet. I would have picked him, but I didn't want to sound like a broken record because on my podcast, I've called him a tight end pickup for like the last 2-3 weeks. So I wanted to go somewhere else this week. Cole Kmet is amazing.
You talked about him, I think, almost every pod over the last month. So, but
pretty much, yeah. It's pretty much been that way. Cole Kmet has been I've been a Cole Kmet truther since the season started. Basically, I've loved Cole Kmet.
Right.
Yeah, but Graham, that was kind of Graham's role last year. I think he had more red zone targets than Allen Robinson did last season, and Robinson had a ton of targets, unlike this year. And so it seems like that's all Jimmy Graham can do now is be in the red zone, catch those touchdowns.
Yeah,
this is true. If I'm mistaken, I'm pretty sure. Oh no. Yeah, Komet's second on the team in targets right now. So I mean, he's seeing work, and if Robinson continues to sit out, even more to his value. So. Yeah. A couple other tight ends. I mean, Nick Vannett, he's kind of stepped up as their Saints tight end, especially with Harris gone. Maybe he sees more targets. If you want to figure out who the hell the Browns are going to have be their leading tight end that week, God bless you. Evan Ingram, he's kind of just out there. Maybe he sees more work with a backup quarterback. He played his best game, I think, in the last month with Mike Glennon. So maybe that's a good thing. James O'Shaughnessy, he led the team in targets, actually, and didn't have a great game, but did lead the team in targets. That seems to be something. Let's see. Foster Moreau, if Darren Waller is out once again, they play the Chiefs. He could end up doing something. I know he disappointed this past week, but maybe he kind of gets back on track for you.
I also like, as a potential with 28% rostership, Gerald Everett. In the last 4 weeks, he has 2 games of 14+ points. And, he was terrible this week. 4 catches for 7 yards, just terrible this week. He scored negative fantasy points on
I think he fumbled.
One of my super leagues.
He fumbled twice.
He fumbled twice, right? Yeah, that's what happened.
But still saw, I think it was 7-8 targets. So
6
involved.
targets. Yeah,
6
in the
targets,
last 4 weeks, he has 3 games of 6 or more targets. And the one game he didn't, he had 4. So, I'll take that.
Russell Wilson, right? The hand, you can't throw it as deep, so the underneath to the tight end is becoming more prominent. So it seems like he's getting incrementally healthier every week, but not enough to not target Everett. So
then next 2 matchups, Houston and Rams, both teams that are pretty weak against the tight end this season. So I think Gerald Everett's a solid pickup if you do need one.
Yeah,
but I like Conklin much better.
That is a great pick as well.
Yeah.
I love that one. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up the waiver portion of our show tonight, guys. And we'll head over to some Dynasty talk. And we're getting there. The season's almost over here. It's time to start talking about these quarterbacks or these players in a more of a Dynasty kind of setting here now. So we're going to start this week. We're going to do the top 5 Dynasty quarterbacks, each one of us here. So Kyle, I'm going to let you just kind of run off who your top 5 is real quick.
So it's entering the season, I had a top 6 tier in Dynasty, and it's, I think that tier has kind of remained the same, although maybe one person has fallen out of it. But for me, the top 3, I had them still ranked the way I had them ranked probably since January. Patrick Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2, and Lamar Jackson 3. I guess where the changes has come have been Justin Herbert, and he did it. He was great as a rookie, fantastic, one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen. But is it just a flash in the pan rookie season, or is it going to be sustainable? And so far, I'd say pretty sustainable. So he's at 4 for me, and then Kyler Murray at 5. And Murray's been great, and I could see some people even having him as the QB1 in Dynasty overall, but he seems a little less durable than all those other guys. Like, this second year in a row where he misses extended amount of times. I think his games missed are probably more than the rest of those 4 combined throughout their careers, and they're all pretty young, so it's not saying too much, but I think right now he seems to be the one with probably the most injury concern, so he'll be 5 for me. Not enough to knock him out of the top 5, but that's just a little more faith in those other 4 guys than Murray right now.
Mahomes had a year, I think it was right after his 50 touchdown 5,000 yard season.
Yeah, the knee,
I think he had some kind of knee or ankle injury that kept him out for a decent amount of time. I don't know how much.
I remember he didn't play against the Packers that year because I think he only ended up missing 2 games. I think the bye week kind of got like it happened right around their bye week. I think he might have only missed 1 or 2 games. But yeah, that was what I was thinking too. Is like, okay, there was that, but outside of those, like Herbert, Mahomes, Allen, Lamar. I guess Lamar more for the illness, really. Maybe I was exaggerating saying he's as many as those guys combined, but I think the point still stands. He's still the one I think with the biggest injury risk to me. That is Murray. That is. And
yeah, I agree with you on Mahomes. Yeah, he got injured in the game against Denver, and then he missed 2 more games against Green Bay and Minnesota, and then he came back against Tennessee and lit it up for 446 yards.
Oh yeah, he had a big game. I remember that. Yeah,
he had a big game against Tennessee. 50 pass attempts, 446 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Wow.
Yeah, insane. I remember that game. Definitely, that was a good game for sure for him. All right, Hutch, what about your top 5? Just run off your top 5 real quick.
So my top 5 here. I've got Josh Allen at number 1. I'm a huge fan of him. Mahomes at 2, Lamar at 3, Murray at 4, and Herbert at 5. I feel terrible with Herbert at 5. He's in conversation for number 1 with me. Though all 5 of those guys are kind of in the same tier for me, and any of those 5 guys I could see in any order, and I wouldn't be mad at you.
Okay. And then mine, real quick, guys. I went with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, and Kyler Murray. So Let's quickly talk about some of our breakdown here real quick. Kyle, why Mahomes over Allen? Or is it just that close? It just doesn't matter to you?
Maybe it's a bit of my stubbornness. I don't want to maybe have he struggled. There's been some struggle games for Mahomes. Frankly, all the quarterbacks have struggled this year at times. It seems like his struggle's been a little bit more prolonged than the others, but I don't want to just overreact to one season. My analysis before the year, though, was Mahomes is one, but he's not in a tier of his own. Like there's very clearly a tier of 5 or 6 guys, and I still think that holds true. So, Mahomes still at 1 for me. But if you can pivot off Mahomes to get any of these other 4 guys and get value added on top of it, I'd do it. Like if maybe we're all talking like we don't want to raise Herbert to 1. We all feel like he could, but we're all kind of hesitant, like 4 or 5 or maybe lower. As Steve has. So if you can, trade away Mahomes to get Herbert and a late first or a good threshold wide receiver that you can put in your lineup every week, like you just get that added value. I think I would definitely do that, and so I'd be willing to move within this tier. Although I guess all these anyway, like I don't know that you're getting that much more value. Maybe a late first and Herbert is a little too much. But yeah, that's kind of how I would kind of my processing.
You probably
they're all too close.
Mm-hmm. You probably do Dak in a first and get for Mahomes probably. I feel like people would do that more than like Herbert or something because he's young. So, but
Hutch depends on the manager.
Right, but Hutch, why Allen over Mahomes?
Allen over Mahomes because Mahomes. I feel like before the season I had Mahomes at number 1 overall, but it was like it was a close tier for me. It was those it's still those 5 guys for me. So those 5 guys are still in the top 5. I've just moved them around a little bit. I actually don't do official like dynasty rankings. I don't post them anywhere. I just like kind of have them in my mind somewhere in the back of my mind. But anyway, so Allen over Mahomes. I'm just concerned about Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce meeting their demise soon because Travis Kelce, he's been great this year, but he's 31 now. Like he's getting close to that point where Travis Kelce is not going to be Travis Kelce anymore, and he's going to fall off. And Tyreek Hill, he might only be 28, and you're thinking, oh, he still's got like 3-4 more years left. Receivers can go into their 30s, right? He's a speedster. Like he is dependent on his athletic ability. And if he were to, and usually receivers lose that at like age 30. And if he doesn't have that athletic ability, obviously he's a talented receiver with great hands and great route running, but losing that athleticism is really bad for him in terms of fantasy production and just as an NFL player. So I'm concerned for Mahomes, less about Mahomes' talent and more just his weapons declining soon. And the Chiefs are going to have to find new players. And they haven't been great at that recently with drafting Sammy Watkins and Mecole Hardman, like 2 not great players right now.
I was going to say most of that, to be honest.
Yeah, see,
that's 22 receiver class does look pretty good. You got to think that they're maybe thinking they're late first, a good receiver. So we'll see.
I don't think they'll go there yet, especially with the way their run D's been playing this year, especially with their defense in general. I think they're going to look defensive side of the ball, but in the next couple of years, they'll have to look receiver. And I don't know how good they're going to be at picking one.
Right,
that's true. I mean, yeah. Imagine they took Jonathan Taylor instead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right?
Oh my god!
Dang man,
talent evaluation. Maybe that's why the GMs do the GM thing and the quarterbacks do the quarterback thing. Maybe that's why you don't ask the quarterback who to draft. For anyone who's criticizing the Packers and their treatment of Rodgers at times, let's just see what happens.
And Joe Burrow did draft Jamar Chase, so that's worked out so far. Jamar Chase has looked incredible, but yeah, moving on. Go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was kind of saying most of the same things you were. I mean, you just like. Allen has progressed and gotten better every year, while Mahomes had that great season, and everyone is just loving that great season. He's slightly just, all the not trick plays, but the magic plays he's had. And again, maybe that gets back to his glory. They've kind of faded. He just sometimes you're good, but then you're throwing interceptions. Like that's just what's going to happen with him. Allen, he had that problem early on, but he's fixed it over his career. He's gotten better, and the coaching staff, the GMs, put players around him to make him better. Wow, I feel like the Chiefs are just hoping that Mahomes can make everyone else better around him. They really just haven't given him any real star talent besides the ones that were there when he was drafted. Well, I mean, the Bills added Diggs, they've added Sanders. They've added they've grown some pieces there where I feel like the Chiefs are just not doing the same kind of work right now, and that's kind of why I have Allen.
Yeah, I don't think Beasley was there when Josh Allen was drafted, so you're right. Yeah.
Oh, Beasley too. Yeah. Gabriel Davis, he goes out.
Yeah, pretty much his entire receiving core came after him. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they did. Wow, shit.
And one thing, too, with Mahomes, like the Chiefs have not figured out a run game for a while. And if they were to keep Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the next few seasons, I mean, I'm just not a huge believer in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, we've seen a lot of him, and it just hasn't really turned out yet. I want to see him because, you know, the last few weeks he has looked great. But the Chiefs, like, just don't use their running backs, and they're letting Mahomes cook. And I feel like that's a big part of why he's throwing interceptions this year, and why last year he ended the season pretty poorly with a lot of interceptions. Like in the last 6 games last year, he threw 5 interceptions total. Like the run game, the lack of run game is really hurting Mahomes. And I feel like if the Chiefs were to not figure that out soon, it's really going to affect him even more. And I feel like that's a big reason why he's throwing interceptions this year, along with the fact that he's trying to make plays that aren't there.
That makes sense.
And to be fair, they were, I think, again, close enough before the season that Allen, at this point, performing better than Mahomes is enough to move him ahead of it. It's not overreacting to kind of do that because they were, value-wise were so close entering the season. Again, I don't think anyone really, at least certainly no one here, viewed it as, Mahomes at 1, but not Mahomes in a tier of his own. So I think that distinction is still there.
A lot of people viewed it that way. I think a lot of people viewed it that way, to be honest. But I completely disagree. It's very close, and Allen's ahead right now.
Agreed. Oh, Zach Moss is active tonight, so we'll see how that works. Zach Moss.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Well, I care because it makes me want to go more towards Jacoby Myers than Singletary in that league. So we'll see if I think that is who I have in right now. So we'll see if I decide.
I lean Singletary.
But just for anyone who is deciding,
I'm still going Singletary. I don't care.
Yeah, I go Singletary.
I'll take that into account, guys.
Absolutely. All right. So, like I said, Lamar Jackson is third for all of us. I don't think we really need to go into too much detail about Lamar Jackson. He's a great quarterback. He's got a rushing ability. He's improved his passing efficiency this season compared to what we've seen over the first 3 years of his career. We all have met 3. That's pretty easy here. But the next one, we kind of break up a little bit here. Hutch, you have Murray at 4. Kyle, you have Herbert at 4, and I have Herbert, and I have Prescott at 4. So, Kyle, why do you have Herbert over Murray?
Again, I think it was just come down to the bit of injury concerns with Murray more so than with Herbert. And Herbert has been producing, showing the high ceiling, even without rushing very much, which is kind of key for him for his long-term staying power in this top 5.
Makes perfect sense. Hutch, why do you have Murray over Herbert?
Murray over Herbert, they are extremely close. I like when I was making these top 5, those two in the back of the 5 were really just. I went back and forth in my head a lot, and I decided Murray, just when he's on the field, he's the quarterback 1. Like, I just don't think there's any debate about it. When last year, when he was on the field down the stretch after his injury, he was the quarterback 1 by miles. Like, it wasn't even close. I think he was on pace to be the quarterback 1 by 40 points. I think he was on pace to be the quarterback 1 by 40 points. And Russell Wilson last year, part of that was during Russell Wilson's great start. But anyway, Kyler Murray, when he's on the field, he's the quarterback 1 for me for fantasy football. He just brings it all. And he's been getting better and better every single season that he's played. And I feel like if the Cardinals are seeing him getting hurt while he's running, they might want to run him a little bit less and just be a bit more conservative with him. But I still think he's going to run enough to produce top 3 quarterback numbers. But I love Herbert. I absolutely love Herbert. But Murray with the rushing is just too much for me to pass on for 4.
I respect it. I like both you guys' take on that. Clearly, I went a different direction completely than you guys both did. So I went with Dak Prescott here. And my most reasons for Dak is that we've seen Dak grow over his career here. Early on, it was let Zeke kind of cover Dak from doing too much. And that's kind of what you did. Obviously, we know Zeke had fantastic, for at least the first 4 years of Dak's career, amazing seasons here. But the run game is starting to kind of dwindle a little bit. They're kind of splitting the ball. They're not running as effectively as they used to. And you've seen Dak, at least over the last 2 years now, have to throw the ball a ton. And he's been good doing it as well. And he's got the weapons around him. I'm really hoping they can find a way to sign Michael Gallup again this offseason. They might not be able to, but they've done good at bringing in weapons to give Dak something. They've been able to grow young players and have them thrive with Dak here. They brought over Amari Cooper. They drafted Michael Gallup. They brought in CeeDee Lamb. And, CeeDee Lamb's going to be a fantastic wide receiver with Dak for many years now. And you saw a guy like Dalton Schultz, who, 2 years ago who now kind of flourished into as a pretty decent low-end tight end one for Dak, and he's been using him very well, and Dak loves the tight ends. And I just feel like Zeke's going to be gone maybe in a year or two. And Tony Pollard's great. I don't see Tony Pollard as a workhorse back, but I think they're going to rely on Dak's arm, and Dak's good and healthy. And as long as he can stay healthy, they're going to probably find ways to fix that offensive line because it is aging. And I think he's just a consistently stable, strong dynasty quarterback to have throughout the boards. And that's kind of why I have him for.
Yeah, I completely agree with you in the fact that their run game has really declined over the last few years. And if they, see that with Zeke and Pollard not putting up amazing numbers, I mean, Pollard in his limited role has looked pretty great this season, but in a workhorse role, I agree with you that he would not be very good. And I feel like if the Cowboys are going to see that, they're going to want to throw more. And especially with the offensive line declining, they're going to want to throw more. And with CD and Amari Cooper there, with Dalton Schultz there, with potentially Michael Gallup there, I doubt they're going to re-sign him. I think he's gone after this offseason. I think he's going to be gone. But with CD and Amari and Schultz and Jarwin and Cedric Wilson, who's been looking good, I think that the Cowboys in the future will throw a lot more than they have this season. And I feel like we could see that like beginning of beginning of 2020 Dak, where he was throwing 50 times a game or like 40 something times a game. He was the QB1 MVP leader. Like we could see something like that in the next few years from Dak. Maybe not that dramatic when he was on pace for 6,000 yards, but we could see a lot more passing from them.
Yeah, definitely. And my real quick take on Herbert, to me, the only thing is, when I do my dynasty rankings, I look at a 3-year window. And in the 3-year window, Keenan Allen might not be there. Mike Williams might not be there even after this season here. Again, they could bring in wide receivers, whatever. But, is Justin Herbert a factor of having great weapons around him in his early on career? Maybe not. Maybe he's really that good, and I think he could be. I think he is. I have him at like 6 or 7, but that's the only reason why I don't have him in my top 5 is that, looking long term, does he have the weapons around him to thrive in the future? So, but he is a great fantasy quarterback.
They're going to have to revamp their weapons a little bit, like just kind of revamp, get new rookies in. And I mean, I agree with you that it might be a bit of a struggle for Herbert, but I feel like they drafted Mike Williams, they drafted Keenan Allen, like they know how to get good receivers on their team. And with Jalen Guyton actually looking pretty good as a young talent, he's made some flashes this year. Maybe he could step up if Keenan Allen or Mike Williams were to leave. But yeah, I really I do understand the Herbert argument where it's, they're going to have to build up their receiving core potentially from the ground. Like if Mike Williams and Keenan Allen really leave this year or really regress. But I think Herbert will be able to produce good numbers still. He still has Austin Eckler too.
It's true. He does. Yes. Agreed. All right. So that's going to wrap us up tonight, guys. That's our top 5 dynasty quarterbacks here. Again, obviously there's things can change very easily in the dynasty world here. So who knows? 3 months from now, we could be talking about a different top 5. Probably not, but
Taylor Heineke QB1.
It's possible. So you never know. But we thank you guys for listening in as always. Kyle, I'll let you start first, man. Shout out your stuff. You got anything going on? Let everyone know.
Well, I'm just going to mention one thing real quick. So if anyone who's watching on YouTube right now, stay tuned to YouTube because at 7, so in just 5 minutes, I'll be on with my co-host on the 2-point conversion on the Going for 2 live network. So check out goingfor2.com on YouTube. And we'll be talking some injuries of the players as well as a bit of a Monday night preview. So 5 minutes from now. So I'll be there shortly. Thanks for having me on, Steve.
Absolutely, Kyle. And Hutch, man, it was a pleasure meeting you, my friend. Great having you on. Let everyone know if you got anything you're working on, anything you want to kind of shout out.
You guys can just go follow me on Twitter at TYFMNFL, and you can pretty much find everything from there. Tomorrow, new episode of the Young Fantasy Mind Football podcast drops. We're talking waiver wire and reacting to Week 13. And we're going to have a lot of those waiver wire pickups that we talked about today, so stay tuned for that.
Awesome. So, guys, jump on in 5 minutes, jump on tomorrow, check both these guys' amazing workout, and we'd appreciate it. So, and as always, guys, you can go check us out on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy. Me and Coach Gibbs are on there. You can ask us any fantasy questions, starting sits, trade still if you're doing that, waiver wire pickups, whatever will help you answer some questions. And if you ever want to, reach out to me personally about any, fantasy talk, you can always do that at Coach Stephen P. Until next time, guys, we'll be back actually on this Wednesday's episode. We won't be on Thursday because I'm going on vacation, so we got to do it a day earlier. And we'll have our start and sit show then. So tune in till then, guys. But we thank you guys all for listening. Tune in next time, guys. And have a good one.